But I think your story is really cool. Um, I have a lot of respect for you, and I think it's something that's worth telling, and kind of, maybe a little bit of context of how you and I met and stuff like that. So,
I love it. No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks. Let's do it.
awesome. So we got David Morris, founder of Quarterback Country on the MTB Performance Podcast. Just a little bit of background on David. Some crazy numbers here, David. Looking at your website and kind of going through like the history of your business, you've had 12 quarterbacks drafted in the last 8 years. You've had 4 first-round draft picks since 2016. 5 FBS national championship quarterbacks at the quarterback position since
Six now.
2006
Six. We left
now.
one off. Yeah.
All right. I was going to say, please correct me
Gotta update.
if
Gotta
I'm missing
update
any.
that. Yeah.
And then pretty cool stat. I remember you guys posting about, but in 2021, you guys had 8 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, which is very impressive. So obviously, like, none of us get into our profession because of the numbers and the accolades. We do it because we love it. But I think those numbers tell a really good story about just how impressive the business that you've created is. So for those of my listeners who might not know you or who Quarterback Country is or what Quarterback Country is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you
Sure.
got started down this road.
Thanks, Mickey. We've been at it for a long time. I was kind of doing the math, speaking of statistics the other day, and I've been in the quarterback world or quarterback business for 20 years, and I feel like I'm just now kind of starting to find my way a little bit. You know how it is. You're always growing and learning and all that and evolving, which I think is so much fun. But yeah, the neatest thing about QB Country to me is that when we started, I was just side gigging. I was in the real estate business, had just gotten finished playing football at Ole Miss, and so I was doing real estate, and a dad would call me here or there to train his son, and I'd say, heck yeah, man, just like I get to go to the field and run around and throw a football with this kid. This is like what I loved doing when I was growing up, and by the way, I'd get like a gift certificate to Applebee's for, $40 or something, because I went out and did this, and I didn't even ask for it. They just gave it to me. I was like, wow, how lucky am I? And so we did that for years, and literally years, and then finally was like, okay, I got to start charging. And so anyway, kind of here we are now at 2010. I created QB Country, actually 2009, went full time in 2011 and a half, between 2011 and 12. And yeah, so I've been in the business a little over 10 years full time, and just love it. I think the coolest thing about what we do is that we never once were chasing high level guys. So the stat, we had 8 starters in the league last year, and the year before, is really neat. Like majority of those guys, we've been training them for a long, long time. Half of them since they were in middle school or high school, and so I think that's the nature of uh, our model. That is our model. It's like we love training young people. They grow up, and then as they've grown, we've been able to grow our program, and we have solutions for high level quarterbacks, all the way down to the young guys. There's something special about training a young kid, and being a part of that development, and knowing that it's going to take a long, long, long time for these dreams to come true. But like, we're never in a rush, and I think that's part of the most fun thing about it is just knowing that that's really the foundation of this thing is giving your all to young people, and just having their back through it all, but also telling them the truth along the way. And next thing you know, you turn around. I think that's the best thing we've done. We're not afraid to play the long journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's had the fortunate opportunity to work with kids from like young high school level to the professional level, those scenarios are super special for coaches like us because like you've seen the whole evolution and development of that athlete. Now, don't get me wrong, it's fun to get guys when they're at an elite level, but there's something special about those high level performers that you've known since they were kids, and how much you've impacted them on a positive standpoint. Yeah, I mean that. So that kind of brings me to my next question: is that I've been with you guys since 2019. You and I met through Eli. When I was training him at the end of
Sure.
his career. Um, but I feel like every time I'm around you and the rest of the QB country guys, like I'm always super impressed with the culture that you've created. Um, I think in your business, like all these guys are in different areas of the country and they're all uniquely different in their skill set and their background. But I think the one commonality is they're all good people. They're all great people that you have kind of cultivated and fostered and developed. And to me, like, as I'm building my business and my brand, like I understand the importance of culture. And knowing you, I know that was very intentional. What are some of the ways you did that and able to, to create such an amazing culture in the quarterback country world?
Man, it's thank you for all that's really meaningful stuff to me. I just know what it takes. Like I know what it takes to coach football. And David Cutcliffe told me a long time ago, you don't coach football because you love it. You coach football because you can't live without it. And I can't live without football. I can't live without that field out there. I get depressed if I'm not on it often. Literally, it's like my happy place. Even if I'm like, oh, I'm tired, go out there and you coach kid up, and man, you brought to life, and you just there's something about the field that is sacred, that inspires me. And even though it's hard and and dirty and all that, and maybe that's why I like it so much, but I think culture is so interesting, because I think it kind of takes its own course. I think you'd like to have like foundational core beliefs, but I think one of the things that we've attracted a certain type of guy, uh, and I'll tell you what, the quality that all of our staff has that is very unique and that I admire about all of them, and I learn a lot from all of them, is that it's not about the money to them. It's just not. It's not about the money to our staff. It's like it's about knowing, not thinking, but knowing that this is how we make the world a better place. Like this is my little way. I hit that field, and I can impact kids. I can challenge them. I can say, no, 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 focus. Like listen to me and let's slow down and let's work on this mechanical thing, whether it be with your feet or your upper half. And that is powerful to me because I know that makes a difference in the way a kid thinks and maybe how much he believes or how much confidence he has or the ability to say, I need help with this and all that. So I think all that, like we love the field, we love kids, and we know that anything worthwhile takes a long time to build, and so we're not in a rush to get there. And I think all I'm saying all this stuff, that's like these are all like incredible traits. And I think we've never recruited coaches. Coaches have always come to us. And I'm a bad recruiter when it comes to that because like what I tell them, dude, is I say, hey, you're not gonna make any money for the first 2 years. And they're like, okay, I'm okay. Like I can do it. I'm like, no, 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 no. You understand? Like this is like you're being a real estate agent, and that first year you're not going to make any commission. Like, do you understand that? And they're like, I love it. I just got to be on the field. I got to be around kids, and they believe that. Hey, if I work hard with these hands and with this brain and my heart, and I give it everything I got, I can really build something. And that's the power of culture is when you get guys that aren't doing it for any other reason other than the fact that they can't live without it. There's something really special there, and I'm so lucky that we've been fortunate enough to attract some of those guys, and we've said no to hundreds of coaches over the years, literally hundreds, because I don't think they got that, and I want that, and there's nothing simple or fast about that kind of a growth model.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the important thing is that, like, most of the kids that we're going to coach, yeah, they might play at a high level in high school. If they're good enough, they'll go to college. And if they're good enough to go on beyond that, they'll play professionally. But every one of these kids, they're going into the world, right? And if we can prepare them to be just good human beings and show up and do those things and do the simple things well day in and day out, like then we've done our job. And I think that's where, the whole the thought process of like serving our athletes without the expectation of anything in return. I think that's what you're talking about with these young coaches who it's like that's kind of their
That's it.
barrier to entry, and if they do that, then it's almost like their opportunity, like they feel where they can make the difference. So
Yeah,
awesome.
there's
Awesome.
no question about that. It takes a guy to maybe a special guy to be able to say, I don't see exactly how I'm going to make this my full-time job or business immediately, but I trust that it's going to happen in time. And by the way, I think that this is where I can really make a difference in the lives of kids and adults. So it's a unique culture.
Awesome. Well, it definitely is something I enjoy being a part of. So to kind of shift gears, obviously this is a performance podcast. I want to talk and have maybe the young athletes who listen, young quarterbacks listening, to get something that they can apply to their training methods and things like that. So, obviously we discussed we've worked with kids from young level all the way to the professional level. When you're working with a young athlete who comes to you and just wants to get better, what are some of the foundations you're looking at from a developmental standpoint with maybe those young high school quarterbacks who are just trying to get better? What are some
Hmm.
things that they can focus on in terms of developing themselves?
Sure, it's a great question. I think there's so many foundations, and I think so many of them are intangible, and so many of them are tangible. Um, you have to be, first of all, from a skill set standpoint, like accuracy is probably the most important thing for a quarterback, and you can get better with that. And usually it comes through repetition, right? I can throw a dig, a 12-yard or 15-yard in cut, 15 different velocities, and I may have to throw them at all those different paces, right? Well, when you're doing that, there's touch to it. That when you're doing that, there's intentional. Okay, I'm gonna challenge my arm on this throw and throw it hard and fast. Okay, I'm gonna layer this one over the backer, but before the safety gets there. Well, there's a lot of art there, a lot of rhythm there. There's a lot of touch. There's a lot of feel. So there is so many mechanical things there that you can work on. I think so much of what's missing these days, in my opinion, you see a ton of people work on the stroke, and we work it. In fact, I don't think anybody works on it harder than we do. But like I think equally as important is the feet and the rhythm and tying in that. Dropping back as a quarterback, they have to tie up to the different passing concepts, whether it be quick game, or short, intermediate, play action, and deep. So your feet, whether it be quick game feet or short or immediate feet or intermediate feet, like the rhythm of your drop, the timing of your drop, the depth of your drop, all really matter because all this has to be on time. And so I think that you're really trying to make them understand the importance of their feet and balance and body control. And we always say body control equals ball control. So can you move quick and subtle and spontaneous in small, compact spaces and have body control when it's time to throw? Well, that would be ideal. We know that the pocket is not ideal that we live in, right? It's survival, and so there's so many movements that are contested or worst case scenario, and so we're really trying to hit on all that. I believe there's four very important ways to train, and it's walk through reps. If you can't walk through it and talk through it, then you don't understand it. And if you can't walk through it, how are you going to be able to do it full speed and then duplicate it? You may be able to do it full speed, but you won't be able to do it over and over again. So there's walkthrough reps that are very important. Foundations are established. There's ideal reps, or even let's skip that. We'll go to half speed reps. All right, then we'll say ideal, where it's a three plant and out of the gun, and it's the pocket's clean and it's on time. It's an off corner, and I can throw my my stop route at 9 yards to my X. All right, well, that's ideal. Well, then there's contested environments that is, where there is movement that is spontaneous, um, or you're reacting and adjusting because there's push or feel in the pocket. And then there's worst case scenario. So this is kind of five compartments, and really there's more than that. There's just five that I named, but wow, like where do you start? And I think you got to start small. It's like if you're teaching a kid how to do a math problem and he doesn't know how to add, well, like we got to go back to the basics. And it's intimidating. And you have young children. Like I'm teaching my young my young girls how to whatever, read and do math and not throw their pencil when dad said that's wrong. And so it takes time. But then what do? They get it, and they're confident, and then they start, oh, I'm building on this. Now I can round up or round down and all. And so I think that when you're talking mechanics of anything, you better be in it for the long haul, because it takes a while. And some people want to skip over things. And, you know, similarly, though, you have to have fun and keep putting them in an environment where they can be athletic and respond. But I just went on a little 5-minute spiel there. Sorry, but I love it. And sorry I went long there, but it's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the art of coaching, right? That's, you talked earlier on about before you even did this full time, you coached athletes because you loved it. And I think that's the important thing is, so many people in our world, like they talk about developing athletes, but very few people are actually doing it and have
You
those
better be
reps,
patient.
right?
You better be
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah. And I think, you talked about, for me, like the way I teach our guys on field is like, especially the young kids, if they don't understand how to do the footwork and understand like their drops and all that stuff, like that's stuff that they can do on their own every day. They don't have to throw to do that. They're not going to stress their arm to do that, but until they get that, like the big stuff isn't going to matter,
That's
and then
right.
kind of the whole skill acquisition going from that controlled environment and predictable environment, right? You got to get that stuff first before we go to a chaotic and
Sure.
unpredictable environment.
There
So
you go.
I love it. I love it. So that's maybe like our young high school kids who are, really just looking to develop a foundation. How would you address, maybe those high school kids that are established, they know they're going to play in college? What are some of the things you might do with them on a developmental level that you might not
Hmm.
do with the younger kids? Like, right, these are the kids with a good
Yeah.
foundation.
Sure. Yeah, I think you challenge them. I think again, you go back to playing quarterback on time is really hard. So there is so much timing, to being, and there's a lot that goes into playing on time. Do you have enough? Is the line protecting? Are the receivers running the right routes? Are your feet timed up? So once you kind of establish, hey, they're on time, I don't think you get away from it. It's always a big part of training, but then you do create scenarios where there's more movement involved, where there is more escape type movements, and then you do double down on foundational things, like mechanics, and I think but the patterning of it all can be a little bit more creative, and I think that's important too. Not only is it show up on the field, these different movements and these different ways to get to the point of where I'm throwing a football. Uh, so it shows up, but it's also fun and it's creative, it piques their interest. So that's one thing. The other thing would just be creating situations that happen all the time that are very hard.
Yeah.
Retreat type throws, shift away type throws. And then usually what happens is with guys like that, they become one of two things. And I think this goes all the way up to when they're in the NFL. They're usually either kind of a touch and accuracy guy or arm, strength guy. And this arm strength guy typically struggles a little bit over here with touch and accuracy. And the accuracy and touch guy usually has to acquire some arm strength stuff, right? And so I think it's important to know which one you are, or and then really spend time there. So for a guy that really needs to work on arm strength, we may really challenge his arm at the different levels, short, intermediate, deep. And then for the guy that needs to work on touch, we really, literally, it may be boring, but like, hey, take something off here, see if you can hit this shallow cross in stride, over the ball, over the left tackle, and in between where the left tackle was and the slot. Like these are different ways of throwing the football, probably different slots, different alignment. There's just a ton into it. And so I think that all those things really matter when you're trying to grow as a passer.
Yeah. No, and I think for me, from the strength coach world and the performance side, is like I look at that similar to the way we look at just overall physiology with our athletes. Like we want to make sure athletes are well rounded. If you're lacking, speed, then that's something we need to focus on. If you're lacking strength or stability or motor control, like, it's a matter of like looking at the athlete in front of you, seeing what they need most.
Yep.
And I think that becomes even more important as you get to more advanced athletes, because, now like those holes and those weaknesses become magnified at a higher level. So the more we can get them to be more well-rounded, both on a skill side and a physiological side, I think that's super important. And I think that's where, coaches at such a high level, that's where they really set themselves apart, rather than, just doing the basics. Like, that's important, but, once you get to that high level, you need to understand, like, what are my biggest weaknesses and what levers can I be pulling in order to
Sure.
continue to grow and develop. So
That's great.
awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so, obviously the one thing that, before I met you guys, I was completely new to the quarterback world, especially the skill side. Obviously, I train them from a performance side.
Hmm.
But the more I continue to work with you and your team, the more I appreciate and understand. Yes, playing quarterback is very physical. There's a lot of skills and tools that you need to have, but I would say it's just as much mental. Um, Talk to me a little bit about, how you help, your quarterbacks, especially. I'm sure it becomes even more
Hmm.
of a need as they get older and, to
Yeah.
college and pros. Like, talk to us a little bit about that, the mental side of the game.
Man, it's the great mystery of sports performance, and the great challenge of heck, being a human being and being a father, being a husband, being a man. Can you stay steady, and can you stay level? Um, I think at quarterback, you got to understand that tough times are coming, and you just got to prepare for them. And obviously, we want to live undefeated. We want to live on the mountaintop. But you gotta understand that so much of this thing and so much of life, or so much playing football, is that you're not going to be on the good side of the token all the time. So being able to manage that, being able to know who you are in all of it, remain confident even though there's a lot that is shaken. There's a real art there. I do think football, and particularly this position, it can break you a little bit. You know what? I think any high performing individual, whether it be a pitcher on the mound or, a quarterback, in the pocket, or a golfer when everybody's watching, there's so many relatable experiences where it's all eyes are on you. And what we say at quarterback is like, you will be exposed for better or worse, period. It's like everybody sees you. And so I think there's obviously like, can you perform when there's a lot going on around you and really just focus in and hone in? I think the guys that do that best in those big environments, which I think if you're playing quarterback in fourth grade or in the Super Bowl, it's a big environment because everybody sees you. The ball's always in your hands. So there's a certain kind of individual that like can do it there. Usually it comes with great reps, and it
Yeah.
starts at a very young age. Usually the best ones, in my opinion, start at a very young age. A competitive thing where they perform and over again, and they can fail and go back and do it again. And I know for me, I had an older brother, my brother Elliot, who's my best friend, one of my best friends. Always included me, right? And he always, I played up, right? So I played 3 years up all the time with him and his friends. Well, like, what if he didn't include me? And what if he was a
Yeah.
bully to me or a jerk to me? Like, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have the same experience in football. There's just so much that goes into the mental aspect of it, right? That's why I say it's the great mystery. And I do
Yeah.
think that I do think that the parenting involved is important. I do think the attitude involved, that is important. Not making excuses, but then ultimately, there is also a big part of success, and managing it is very hard, man. And people that are high level people, they don't pay attention to stats and media and accomplishments because they know it's dangerous. And I think even people, whatever, in business are the same way. You got to be careful, right? And you get back to why you're doing it in the first place. But yeah, just managing. I manage, and advise and talk to so many different guys that are on both sides of the spectrum. And usually those guys are, if they're on this one, if they're up high, like it may not be this year, but like in the near
Yep.
future, next year, whatever, it's gonna hit this. And can you be that same guy? And it's hard, but I love that because I think that's part of the relationship that we can really all lean on each other and help each other get through those times that are tough and remind them who they are.
Yeah, yeah, and making sure they become addicted to the process and not the result. I think
Yeah,
that's one
perfect.
way that allows you to, as one of my mentors said to me, he goes, you got to keep your highs low and your lows high, and just be as level as you can.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the more times I've been in leadership roles, the more I've understood the importance of that.
Yes.
Because as a leader, as a quarterback, like everybody's watching you, and you're setting the tempo. So. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So obviously I want our athletes and young uh, athletes to kind of get something out of this, but for me, this is also for men, right? Men like you and I to kind of get value and context and understanding, out of this podcast as well. So you're a father, you're a husband, you're a business owner, you're a busy guy. One of the things that I've always respected about you, among other guys in our industry, like you keep fit, you stay fit, you take the time to take care of yourself. Um, Walk me through, like, why is that important to you? What are some of the things you do to maintain fitness? And like, why does that matter to you in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah. That's good stuff. If you can help me with sleep, that'd be I'd be greatly appreciated. I know I'll see you at CE down there, down here in Florida in a couple weeks, but no, I'd get better with sleep. But I grew up. My father went to Vietnam and was kind of an army guy, and so just used to discipline. And discipline was different back then. He's 78, and but dad woke us up before school, starting probably in second grade, and we'd have to run before school, legitimate, and usually it was anywhere from 3 to 4 miles, but the sun's not up, and me and my brothers are just like, what are we doing, like. And I'm cramping, and I'm like, Dad, what is this thing in my belly? And he's like, Hey, pinch it, put your hands over your head, and keep going. If you stop, it's gonna hurt. And I'm like, perfect. Next thing you know, hey, the cramp goes away. I don't know if he's a genius or he just tricked me, but it worked. And I don't know, from a young age, you hate those things that you got to get up and just go. There's nothing fun about that, right? My wife does it every day now too, and she runs violently, right? I see people all the time like, I saw your wife running, like, man, she's on a mission. I'm like, maybe she'll have more patience this afternoon because, like, and so, but no, there's something to doing what you don't want to do because it's good for you. And I think that's fitness to me. I'm fortunate that my office is right downstairs, kind of like you, right outside that
Yep.
door. You walk into a gym. I mean, how lucky are we, right? But like, you kind of, every time you pass that, you kind of like, okay, I got to get in there and do stuff. But I think what I try to work out 5 days a week, and every day I'm working out. I think there's two things. I would like to uh, not look like I'm some old guy. And then I want to feel good. I've found the more I move,
Yep.
Obviously, it translates to me thinking creatively, to me sleeping better. Uh, I love running, and I think that may clear my brain more than anything. But yeah, it's we have a good group here. We call it the unimpressive adult workout, and it's about six of my good buddies around town, and we get after it here. So it's about 50 minutes of pretty intense, uh, exercise, but it's fun too, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I love it. And I think for me, the way I see it is if you don't serve yourself, you can't serve others. And as I've gotten older and, more competing demands with life and fatherhood and being a husband and running a business, like one of the things I do not negotiate with myself is training has to happen because if I let that go, then everything else suffers. So,
It's great.
um, awesome. Well,
That's 100% right.
yeah, yeah. Well, David, I appreciate your time. You're definitely somebody that's leading by example with everything you do. I respect the hell out of you. The business you've created, the culture you've created. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. But I just want to say thanks for your time today and sharing your story with us.
Mickey, I appreciate it, and it means a lot to me. And I always tell people when I'm around you, I always learn a lot, and I mean that. I think so much of the way you do things and how you do it is very unique. But yeah, man, whether it be how much you know about performance or just the way you teach, I learn a lot and all that, and your patience and your wisdom and all that. So anyway, appreciate the compliment, but it's very mutual the way I feel about you. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see you here in a couple weeks too, man. I have to get after it.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. And
Uh,
yeah, excited about it.
all right, Mick. Great
Cool.
talking to you, buddy.